Hello and welcome to Ways to Change the World, the first programme of 2021. So a very happy new year to you. And we've got the perfect guest to get us into a new start with new beginnings and good intentions. Joe Wicks, the body coach, was very much one of the stars of 2020, and what was a really difficult year in all sorts of ways was transformed by, for many people, by getting fit or trying to get fit and be active through those periods of lockdown. And Joe's programs online were really instrumental for many people on that, particularly on YouTube during the first lockdown. He's since gone on to create a new app to help people with their fitness that we'll be talking about in a second. But hello, Joe, and Happy New Year.
Hello, Krishnan. Thank you for having me on your podcast. And I love the title, Ways to Change the World. What a lovely concept. And I hope that we can talk about some really positive and inspiring stuff now.
That's absolutely the idea behind this. So, do you have New Year's resolutions normally? Do you have one this year?
Well, I'm obviously I'm always into fitness. So I love my food. I love my cooking and my exercise. So that's something that comes quite naturally for me. But one thing I've been trying to implement and get better at is meditation, just slowing down, disconnecting from my device. So this year, my resolution is to kind of have a better routine with that, even if it's 3 or 4 days per week, because it really does slow me down, bring me kind of presence and make me feel really kind of in the moment. That's something that I'm not very good at. So I think hopefully that will be my New Year's resolution I can stick to in January and for the rest of the year.
I want to talk to you about how you got into that situation with everything that happened last year. But I guess there are going to be a few different types of people watching this, and some of them are going to be like me, who are full of good intentions, but for whom fitness doesn't come naturally. It's really hard for us. And, the cold and the rain always puts us off. It's easy when it's nice outside, but this time of year when you want to get fit and you step outside and it's like, oh God, that's awful. It's really off-putting, and it's quite easy for sort of your fitness goals to be the first casualty of the new year. So how should we approach it?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult this time of year. Even leading up to Christmas and then into the new year, it's the colder months. We kind of want to hibernate. We have the comfort foods. We feel like we're less active. We become more sedentary. And I think it's natural to feel that way. I think a lot of us, even me, I go through days and weeks where I'm not in the mood for it. But I always remind myself how I'm going to feel afterwards. So for me, exercise isn't really just about the physical benefits and the kind of the fat loss and being lean. It's about the mental health benefits. Like I feel better when I exercise, and I have more energy, I'm more patient, I'm better around my kids. And, I think we have to remind ourselves of those things, because if you tap into those motivations, not just the fat loss and the before and after transformation, that's what's really going to motivate you during the winter months.
Are you a fitness addict?
I'm not an addict, but it's definitely my therapy. When I look back at my childhood and growing up as a teenager, I always exercised. I always was taking part in sport. I'd be running around, I'd be exercising. I joined the gym when I was 16. And I think for me, it's just something I enjoy. So like you said, you describe it as it's quite difficult. You don't really get much enjoyment from it. A lot of people don't have it in their DNA. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about getting young people exercising from like primary school, because if you leave it too late and they become teenagers and adults, it's very hard to get a sedentary adult into exercise to enjoy that physicality of pushing themselves. So for me, I'm not addicted, but I love doing it, and I love inspiring people that don't enjoy it to really get the benefits out of it.
For me, I totally get what you mean by the enjoyment of it, because I'm sort of the classic person who goes through sort of peaks and troughs of trying to get fit, because I do this London to Paris in 24 hours bike ride to raise money for a medical charity, Duchenne UK, once a year, and so I train for that, and I get a little bit fit. And work quite hard for it, and I sort of enjoy it, and I enjoy being fit and losing weight and looking better and feeling better. But then, as soon as I let it go if I let it go for a few weeks, it feels like I'm right back to square one. And it's being back at square one, which is where I am right now, because I haven't done really any exercise for a couple of months. That's where I find the motivation really hard.
I think people are very good when they've got a time frame or a goal. And obviously when you lose that, and it kind of that's why I believe in setting goals. But this year I've decided to set myself a new fitness goal, which is to run a faster 5 kilometers, to try and break sub 20 minutes. And I think having these little goals can really help with your motivation. And also just not being hard on yourself. If you do go through a week where you're not that into it and you're not really motivated, don't be hard on yourself. A lot of people experience that. I think just setting small daily goals, like it could be, a home workout or doing a little meditation, or even things like having a cold shower. All these things are positive. I think all movement is good for you. You don't necessarily have to be building up to this massive endurance event to be fit and healthy. But the annoying thing is it takes months to get fitness and you lose it in weeks, then it goes so quick. So you do have to be consistent with your nutrition and your exercise if you want to maintain that level of health and fitness throughout the year.
Tell us about this app and how that can help people.
So I've always had an online business. I've got my YouTube channel, which is free, and I love it, and I'm continuing to commit to that. I'm not giving up on that. I love knowing my mission really is to get everybody exercising, and I know that some people will never buy a book or buy my 90-day plan, but I've just launched a Body Coach app, which is an amazing digital product where you sign up to it, you get your tailored recipes and workouts sent to you each month, so it's a constantly updating and a kind of evolving product. And also you get like the accountability of knowing that you're part of a community. It tracks your mood and your mental health. So we ask you questions like at the end of the month, are you sleeping better? Do you have more energy? Are you happier? So that if you haven't lost loads of weight on the scales, you can still see these other things that are really important to the journey. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. And it's been an amazing response. Hundreds of thousands of people have signed up to it. And I think it's going to help a lot of people transform this year.
I mean, when you think back to 2020, for so many of us, it was a dreadful year. It was a year we'd really like to forget about and move on from. But for you, I mean, it was amazing, I guess.
Yeah, on a personal level, emotionally, I found it difficult not seeing my friends and family. And also when I see lots of other people struggling and companies and restaurants, going under, that really affects me. And I really think about that a lot. And I think about other people's feelings. So I found it difficult personally. In terms of the Body Coach and what I achieved as, this online trainer and reaching all of those people during lockdown, like it was an incredible year. And it's kind of my dream, like my vision and my kind of ambition just manifested over such a short period of time. But I really was working so hard on the school stuff. I'd done UK tours. I'd visited all around Ireland and Northern Ireland. So I didn't just have this idea and it just blew up. I'd been building it for 4 or 5 years. So I'm really proud that I was there at the right time with the right idea to really inspire and lift up the nation's kind of mental health for that difficult time, because kids were off school, everyone was locked in their homes. And I always say, even if you had a big 5-bedroom house or a 1-bedroom flat, you could all take part in this little workout in a tiny little space. And I loved it. I really had so much purpose during that time.
I mean, did you perhaps, though, bite off more than you could chew? I mean, it was incredibly intense.
It was a very physical year. I felt like I did not stop exercising from the start of March when the lockdown workouts began. I had no idea I was going to do it for so long. But when I realized I was serving so many people and I was there and supporting them, I couldn't not be there. So I dragged it out as long as I could until schools started to reopen and people sort of started going back to work. But it was emotionally draining because some days I really didn't want to do it. I didn't want to stand in front of a camera and be Mr. Motivator. But I knew that if I didn't, people around the UK would have been struggling with their mental health. So I was very much driven by that. And almost when it finished, I had a kind of low point. I felt quite flat, like I lost my purpose and my direction. But now I'm back into it and I'm loving it again.
I mean, for you personally, though, it also became, you basically became tabloid fodder instantly because the newspapers were looking for new kinds of celebrity news, and yours was perfect because they didn't have to go out and find it, which they couldn't, I suppose, during coronavirus. How did you cope with suddenly being that famous?
Yeah, there was a bit of a shift during that first week of lockdown with Joe. And as I said, I lived on Sheen Road in Richmond, so it's a main road. And I was coming out with my daughter, going for a walk into the park, and there was paparazzi taking photos. So it was a really weird time. I like what I've done online, but I don't want to be a celebrity that's getting followed around. I don't want that kind of attention. So it wasn't really what me and Rosie wanted, and it made us actually go. We sort of accelerated our house move because we wanted a bit more privacy. So because of that kind of invasion of privacy, if you like, with people taking photos and the press, it did make us want to leave that house. We now live somewhere different, which is a bit more private. But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, they just wanted to see a photo of us. They just wanted to see what we're up to and maybe catch me out, like breaking the lockdown rules. But, I was always 1 hour a day, went for our walk, came home, and then we were just in the house most of the time. But yeah, it was a funny time. It was so many eyeballs on me at once.
I mean, that might surprise people, though, that you didn't want the fame, because everything you'd been doing would suggest, in terms of building your social media profile and your what you were doing on YouTube, would suggest that you did want attention. Did your attitude towards that change at all? I mean, was it that you did want attention but then didn't really like it?
Well, I was like your average personal trainer. I was running a boot camp in Richmond, Old Deer Park, and I had like 20 clients. I had my little Twitter account and I had a little Facebook page. But when I started sharing the content on Instagram, my Lean in 15 recipes, there was never an ambition to create a brand, have a book deal, have a DVD, have merchandise. It really came from a genuine passion of loving to share content. And, as my success and my numbers grew, like my fame, I suppose, grew, it wasn't an overnight thing. So I've always had a nice, slow, steady growth, if you like. But I think the Pee with Joe thing really took it to another level because it's 80 million families or 80 million views. So it could have been families taking part globally. So it's definitely elevated things. But yeah, I'm not someone who wants to be like in the limelight. You know, I get quite nervous when I do live TV. I did Jonathan Ross show. I'm well out of my comfort zone. I'm not like someone who's a natural kind of entertainer and really thrives in that environment. But when I'm at home with my kids and I've got my iPhone, I feel quite relaxed. I feel like I'm doing what I'm good at. And I just have a tripod. I'm in my own gym with my own camera doing my own workout. So I'm producing my own content. When you're in a live setting with a studio and loads of people, I do feel like I'm never quite relaxed.
I mean, you mentioned your mental health right at the beginning of this conversation. I mean, is that something, again, that you really discovered last year, I suppose, or the importance of it and what you can do to help yourself?
Well, I've been on a bit of a journey myself, you know, over the last few years. Just from when I started out, it was very much based on sign up, you know, fat loss, get lean, burn body fat, transform the way you look. And I realized as time went on, as the more and more people signed up to my plan and bought my books and stuff, that the real transformation was an internal, intrinsic thing. It was the things you couldn't see. So people's mood and their stress levels, their anxieties. The narrative was gradually changing. But yeah, it definitely accelerated during lockdown when I realized that I'm not doing Pee with Joe to cure obesity, to cure type 2 diabetes. I'm doing this to people's mental health. And so now my content, and when I talk about things on my Instagram stories, I say, look, you may not be in the mood right now. You may be tired. You may have had a rough night's sleep, but go and do this to feel good. Go and exercise to feel happier. And that's a really important message I repeat every day. And some people get it, some people don't. And so, yeah, I think more than ever, we need to be moving our bodies and exercising for our mental health. And then predominantly do that first. And then afterwards, your physical transformation will occur.
And so, and do you think you need to do both? I mean, my wife, for example, runs and does yoga, always, you know, sort of one after the other. Not necessarily always in the same order, but I think it's really important to her to have that sort of period of sort of concentration and meditation, if you like, as well as the physical exercise. You know, how important is it that these two things go together?
Well, I'm taking it a lot more serious now. I used to find stretching difficult. I used to find mobility work difficult, you know, and yoga and any breathing or meditation. But what I've realized is, you know, you can't just smash your body around tarmac and in the weights, you know, on using weights in the gym and doing body weight stuff, because it tightens up. Things get cramped and you've got to open your joints up. So for me now, I'm putting a lot more time in the mobility stuff and the mindset stuff. You know, I was doing Russell Brand's podcast, Under the Skin, and he said, Joe, you sound like a man who needs to meditate. Your brain sounds like it's moving so fast. Take some time. And I did a guided meditation on YouTube, and it really done something. It really opened up a part of my brain that I didn't realize was there, and it kind of created this space. So yeah, like I said, I'm trying to incorporate that because I am busy. I'm always thinking about work. I've always got something on, a project on, and taking that even 10 minutes a day to stop and breathe, it really brings you to a nice calm place that we don't often get to.
Has your mind always worked like that? Has it always raced?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely, I had massive attention issues. I wasn't ever diagnosed with ADHD, but I couldn't focus for long. I got distracted. I distracted other people. I was like confused about, you know, maths I found difficult, and English and science was quite difficult. Practical things like technology, or, you know, building a toy box, or doing like food tech, and then PE was like my main, where I really flourished. And so I've always had this kind of energetic movement inside me, this brain that's always working. But yeah, it's something you know, like meditation, you can have a good meditation and a bad meditation. You can have a great workout and a bad workout, but it's about practice. You do get better at it. I mean, is it something you've ever tried, meditation?
Not properly. I mean, a little bit, but I'm sort of, I think I'm really badly disciplined. And my life is quite chaotic and has these sort of real peaks of sort of high stress, lots of travel, and you know, doing the news. You know, the news sort of once a day is a real sort of adrenaline and stress sort of peak. And so sort of coming down or sort of having a moment of calmness, I'm sure would be really, really helpful, but I'm very bad at it. It's sort of finding the time for it.
I used to say the same thing to myself. When I first tried it, I used to say that I'm just not mindful. I can't be mindful. But it's that thing of breaking through that annoyance and irritability of just sitting there and being all stressed. It kind of dissipates. You get better with it, and the thoughts sort of pass on. But yeah, I mean, I love it. I've got the Headspace app on my phone, and I do that sort of 2 or 3 days a week. And it does help. I do recommend it.
I think the closest thing I get to it is if I cycle to work, then that sort of concentration of cycling through London traffic and basically trying to stay alive for an hour. I find it sort of quite, you know, you empty your head of of other stuff, of sort of the thoughts about work or family or whatever might be going on, and just kind of concentrate on something sort of physical. That's about the closest I get to sort of meditating. I think.
Yeah, I can relate to that because I've got a motorbike and I love going out on it. It's quite meditative and just like being in the moment and just focusing on the road. It's a nice feeling. But yeah, like you said, my meditation is also exercise. You don't have to sit there and stare at a wall. You can find meditation in walking and listening to music, in painting and being mindful. People do Lego, like people do all kinds of things to be mindful in the moment. So yeah, don't feel like you have to sit there and do a really intense meditation.
You've spoken about your childhood before, I know, and how important it was in terms of forming the person you are now, and it is for us all, I suppose. How have you been able to sort of, reflect on all of that this year as you've been speaking about it publicly? Because quite often speaking about something publicly makes you think about it in a different way.
Yeah, I suppose the first time I shared about my childhood was probably on BBC Desert Island Disc. I really opened up about my childhood, and I come from a family of addiction, so my dad has been a really hardcore like drug addict in my childhood. He's clean today, and my mum had certain issues around like OCD, and I suppose when you're a teenager and a young kid, your parents protect you. They don't really tell you what they went through. They don't really let you know what trauma they went through that manifested in these certain behaviours. So I think as I became an adult and a parent especially, I'm now more empathetic. I now understand my parents and I love them for how I am. I love them. I love that I've been raised how I am, and I don't really look back and regret or resent them for certain things. I think we have to forgive our parents because they only want the best for you. They're only doing the best they can. And, we were on benefits. We didn't have a lot. And, I still had a happy childhood. I don't look back thinking, oh, it's the worst thing ever. But I think, I think as you grow older, you become more, and you evolve, you become more loving and understanding of the people that are around you. So I just kind of live today, and I'm really proud of the people they are today.
Do you remember how old you were when you sort of realised that your dad was taking heroin, for example?
Well, it was never.
Was it just always part of your life?
It was never it was never ever around me. Like we didn't live in like that sort of situation where it was more like, I remember my dad just always being really sleepy and really tired. But it was more like he'd be gone, he'd be in rehab, and he'd be clean, then he'd come back, and then they'd row, and then he'd things got tough and difficult. It was like resetting that button. So I always had this feeling of no one stuck together, and it was a bit of an abandonment thing where I thought, why can't he just give up? We're here, like we all love him. Why can't he give up drugs? But I realised that he loved us unconditionally. It was just, drug addiction's a really powerful thing. It's a really, especially something like heroin, it's not something you can just shake off. From the age of probably 7 or 8 or 9, I started to become more aware of things. And then I was a bit older, and as a teenager, I went through my angriest stage probably from like, say, 14 to 17, where like I just couldn't deal with it because it was constant. But then, it's like I hit 18, 19, and my dad just got clean one day, and that was it, and so he kind of reached that rock bottom breaking point, and he's had a few relapses over the years, but he's clean today. We've got a very good relationship now, which is important. We see each other all the time, and I love him.
And what did it make you feel about anything that people put in their bodies, from alcohol to Class A drugs or smoking or anything like that? Did it put you off everything?
Definitely. As a kid growing up, I used to have this fear that if I tried weed, I'd love it, and then I'd go on to other things, and I'd be an addict because my dad was. I thought it was a genetic thing, but definitely scared me into doing that. And me and my brother Nicky avoided that. We really did make better decisions because when my friends started going down the park doing graffiti and smoking weed, I was like playing football, or I joined the athletics club at school. Like, I really made a conscious decision myself. I wasn't pushed into it, and maybe that one decision changed my life because I didn't go down that route. And a lot of my friends were getting in trouble for petty crimes, and then they'd start doing other drugs as they got a little bit older, and I kind of really was a bit frightful and fearful of that. So yeah, I think the destruction I saw it cause my family, without doubt, changed my direction and helped me make better decisions as an adult.
Did it come from you, or did you have somebody guiding you and warning you off going down that path yourself?
I just saw it. I just saw the destruction. Like, I just saw what it done. Like when my dad was really unwell, and when he was, in and out of rehab, and just the destruction and the arguments and the chaos of living in a house of addiction. It's not something you want to put your kids through. So I just always knew that I was going to be a better parent. I was going to be a better husband and be committed and be faithful and loyal and be there for my wife and kids. So it's given me, it's like anything. You can learn from your parents' mistakes, or you can kind of live your parents' mistakes, can't you? And kind of carry on that tradition and that path in life. But I'm really proud of my past. Like, I can talk about it openly because I'm not ashamed. I don't have any like upset.
You talked about your mum's OCD as well as a child, cleaning, which is one of the classic OCD obsessions. When did you become aware of that?
Well, it's funny when I look back now, but at the time it was just like annoying because she was always cleaning, hoovering like twice a day. With she's dealt with certain things as a young person. So trauma manifests itself. My mum was never into drugs, but she had OCD and she had a lot of therapy. And my dad he wasn't cleaning. He was the opposite. He was probably making a mess and doing drugs and whatnot. So I think as you get older, you start to understand the reason behind certain behaviours, and like you said, you can then love them more for it and be kind of like, rather than angry and frustrated about how people are, like you can actually think, well, look, there's a reason behind that behaviour. But yeah, it was tough because I remember being like 7 or maybe 8 or 9, just like making my bed. But then again, now I'm quite a tidy, clean adult. So maybe because of that, I lived in a hostel when I was backpacking. I lived on my own when I was at uni, and I had a really nice, clean room. So although it was annoying when I was a kid, it taught me how to like respect my surroundings and have a nice, clean, tidy living room and bedroom.
And do you feel you have any of those sorts of feelings yourself, sort of obsessive feelings about exercise and what you do, or is it all sort of fairly in balance?
I've often wondered if I am addicted to exercise and that physical challenge of pushing myself, but I can have weeks where I don't do anything. So it's not like I need it every day and I'm doing it for fat loss and it's about body image and I've got like a body dysmorphia. I genuinely just love how it makes me feel, and I'm in such a habit of it. I'm such a routine that it's almost like it's not motivation, it's just discipline. It's like I'm disciplined, and I know that when I exercise, I feel good, I feel better, and I'm a nicer person to be around. So yeah, maybe there's a slight element, but I think for me it's a positive one. It's not like I'm hammering it every day. I do half an hour a day, and that's enough.
I mean, you mentioned sort of the motivations for exercise. I mean, and obviously a lot of people do it because they want to look better, and you're concentrating on how people feel better as a result of exercise. But if you're doing it because you want to look better, is that okay?
I think so. Yeah, I think it shouldn't be the only goal, because if it was enough, if the goal of body image and weight loss and gene size and like looking a certain way, if that was a big enough motivator, we all be lean all year round? Like it's not, is it? So it's about focusing on like the mental health benefits. Like why I'm going to exercise today because I want to feel stronger. I want to be fitter. I want to be able to run up and down the stairs. I want to be able to play with the children. And I do think you have to come at it from that angle first, because fat loss and weighing yourself and obsessively counting calories and tracking all this stuff, it can become quite obsessive and quite unhealthy. So for me, it's like, do it to feel good. Do it to feel good and feel energized today, and put good food in your body because you want to feel like you've got energy and feel happy and light and in a good mood. And then you do it long enough and you will physically transform, but it takes months and often years to achieve your goals.
As a parent listening to this is kind of, this all feels good for me, but I'm kind of thinking about my kids and their friends and young people. And, you talked about when you were younger, you went off and played sport and you wanted to play football and all those sorts of things, as a way of getting away from, the alternatives. But, a lot of teenagers often find themselves in that situation where they liked doing physical activity when they were younger, but then perhaps maybe they weren't that good at it. Maybe they weren't really good enough to be in the first team at school, and therefore it wasn't, the thing that they would excel at. And so sport often then drops off their agenda. How do you think we can sort of keep young people playing sport rather than just kind of easing naturally into video games and social media and all the things that teenagers do instead?
I think it's the biggest challenge we have, because when I was a kid, we had our PlayStation and Nintendo, whatnot, and we had a couple of hours, but that was it. You didn't all have a TV in your room. It wasn't like you could all just go off and spend 7-8 hours looking at a screen. So I think the world's changed. Like, technology has made things much more challenging for parenting and for our mental health, because we're bombarded with images and social media, with messages around what we should and shouldn't look like. I think sport's one thing, but I don't think it's just about team sports and competing and all that. I think really it's about doing it for your own, because when you realize that you're living in your own mind and you are in your own body, you need to take care of your own personal health and mental health. No one around you can actually do that. So getting into the habit of like exercising, it could be going for walks, it could be going for a bike ride, it could be doing a quick little YouTube workout in your living room and using YouTube, but still playing your games and doing all that, but just somehow breaking that cycle of it's just about consuming content and actually using something that's going to get you moving and burning some energy. I've had some amazing messages from kids and parents that said, I went upstairs and I heard this bang and I thought they were having a fight, and my 2 children were doing one of the YouTube workouts. Like, that for me is the ultimate success story, because it's kids choosing to do it themselves. That's why you need to get them at the youngest possible age. If you wait till they're teenagers, you're really up against it. It's way harder. So a lot of the work I'm doing is with primary school kids. It's with younger children to get them energized and seeing, like, we're exercising, we're having fun. This is great. I can do this anywhere, anytime. And if I live in a home of chaos and stress and dysfunctionality and there's a lot of shouting and arguing, I can go in my room, close the door, and go on YouTube and almost escape that and feel good for 20 minutes.
I suppose the challenge I'm thinking about is when you quite often will get, even my own experience, when I was a young kid, I used to really enjoy sport and physical activity. But then I think as I grew up, I realised I wasn't very good at it. By comparison to some of my friends. And so I kind of sort of, walked away from it. And it's that challenge, I think, that is really difficult, sort of getting 8, 9, 10-year-olds doing physical activity is great, but relatively easy. It's when they're 13, 14, 15 that it becomes hard.
Well, I don't think it's about being good at something. I don't think it's about being good at press-ups or like really good at burpees. I think it's just about just doing something and doing a bit of exercise. But I understand I'm going to go through the same challenges that you do. And I hear a lot of parents say it's easy to give your kids healthy food when they're 4, 5, 6, 7. Then they get pocket money. They're going to school. They've got their own money. Like it's really difficult to maintain and control. You can't. It's out of your control. But I do think as a parent, the most important thing we can do is role modeling. And that's through healthy cooking and through exercising and doing physical stuff together. I think P with Joe showed that you could have mum and dad in the living room with 2 kids and the dog running around and the baby climbing up the walls. And it was like fun, and if they're not seeing you do it, how can you possibly encourage them to do it? If they're seeing that you're on your laptop, on your phone, doing your emails and being busy, working hard on your career and your success, but not taking time for your mental health and your physical fitness, how are they going to really listen to you? So it's about, I do think doing it together and having like a fit family is going to really change the culture in the household. And that takes commitment from everyone. It takes commitment from you, your wife and your kids to really come together.
I think we really need to, we need to get back into it. But I mean, there was a period I remember last year, I think during the first lockdown, where both me and my wife were sort of being obsessively fit and going out every day. And I was either on my bike or running, and so was my wife. And we would come back and our teenage kids would just kind of look at us as if we were mad, and they were going, what is going on? What's happened to you people? So I think maybe if we carry it on for longer, then maybe they'll sort of give in and say, okay, maybe they're onto something.
And also remind your children that when they're consuming hours and hours of social media content, it's really detrimental to their mental health when they're comparing themselves to Kylie Jenner, to Kim Kardashian. So it's like almost reminding your children that whatever's going on in your head and your mind and the thoughts that you're experiencing, you can actually come away and do something really positive and do some exercise and get strong, get healthy. It's not about weight loss and being skinny. I never talk about that with children, but it's about, feeling calm going into your exams, feeling not so stressed if you're getting a bit of grief on social media, or it's about switching off and knowing that you can change your mindset and lift your mood through physical exercise. And that's the message. Never say to your kids, you got to go and, I know you wouldn't, but go and lose weight or you look a bit unfit. It's about just saying, why don't you go and do a little bike ride or get out for a few hours and have a walk around the park? You'll feel great for it. You'll feel much more energized. And I know you look a bit stressed. It's like that kind of messaging is more important and more powerful than saying like, you should exercise,
So how did you go then from being the kid who enjoyed exercise to being, the body coach? I mean, did you think it through? Was it a plan or was it something that just happened?
I had no idea that I was going to go on to become the body coach and create a brand that's helped millions of people. What I did think I was going to do, and I made this decision when I was 14, was go to university, go to St Mary's in Twickenham to become a PE teacher. And I did that. I went to St Mary's, I did my sports science degree, and I worked as a teaching assistant for 1 year. And I just wasn't cut out for it. I found it the most challenging thing. And I really thought I can't do this for the rest of my life. So I've got a lot of respect for teachers and teaching assistants. And I thought, right, what else do I love? I love.
Why did you want to be a teacher?
Because it was all I aspired to be. I just had such a great relationship with my PE teachers. It was the one person. It was like my positive role models. They were often guys. There was a few female teachers along the way, but it was mainly like a physically strong male positive role model that was always smiling, always happy, always getting me out for training and getting me in a good mood. And so I thought, I want to be that person. I want to be a PE teacher. I then shifted and became a personal trainer. But if you look at where I am now, I've come full circle. I am a personal trainer, but I'm also PE teacher to the nation. I did what I always set out to do, which is engage and inspire young children into fitness. And Yeah, it is my proudest achievement what I've done during lockdown with those workouts.
How much do you get back in terms of feedback? Because the relationship that you started out wanting, I suppose, is a very personal one. It's personally motivating, and you see an individual child and you develop them. Given your platform now, how easy is it to have relationships with the people you're motivating?
Well, I'm still so involved in my social media. I'm still very actively. I read DMs. I reply with voice notes. I read the YouTube comments, because when I disconnect from that and I lose that, I kind of feel demotivated. I kind of feel like, what am I doing this for? What is my purpose? Because it's not just about YouTube revenue and views and more book sales. Like, that doesn't motivate me. But when I see the comments and the real emotional testimonials from people that are saying, look, I live in India, or I live in Sri Lanka, or I live in South America, and I'm doing your workouts. And you think that's incredible that I've been able to reach people that can't afford a gym membership, that can't afford a healthy cookbook. So for me, I always have to every other day tap into those comments and read that, because then I realize that, I am doing something which is changing people's lives. I am helping people in such a way that I'll never really know the true volume. But 7 million people a month do my videos, and that is incredible, right? That's people that are doing something on their own in their living room or in their bedroom, and they're coming away from it feeling happier.
And how about the cookbooks? I mean, how did that come about? Did that become your primary thing?
I kind of shifted a little bit. I was a personal trainer. Then I started doing the Instagram videos where I was, throwing all the food in the pan, and had this idea. And I never, ever had an idea of getting a cookbook. They approached me. And then I sold nearly 4 million cookbooks. And then I kind of Pee with Joe happened, and then I sort of shifted back almost towards fitness a little bit. But I still combine two. Like with the app, it's all about food and fitness. With, my cookbooks is a recipe book, but there's also workouts in there. But it's been a mad journey. I imagine when I started the recipes, I had my iPhone. I was living in a 1-bedroom flat in Surbiton, and I filmed everything, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and shared it. This is before Instagram. This is before brand deals and TV shows and book companies offering book deals to influencers. This is long before that. So I was so driven by this passion inside of me that I was probably one of the first people to really come through that.
How would you describe your basic philosophy of food? And how people should approach their food?
So my philosophy around food has always been keeping it very simple. Nothing is banned. Nothing is like the demon foods that you shouldn't go near. I just think about healthy balance and taking it back to basics, removing the processed foods and the ready meals and the takeaways, and just cooking at home, whether that's a veggie curry or a stir fry or a nice risotto. Like, it's really simple, and it's about speed and making it quick and easy, but also giving people the confidence that they can cook. My mum did not cook. We didn't have like home cooked food. It was very much ready meals. It was microwave dinners. It was potato waffles and crispy pancakes. We didn't eat healthy food. But the more I taught myself and shared these recipes, the more I realized that anyone can learn to cook. And Jamie Oliver done an amazing job, and you've got other people that have come out with amazing cookbooks that have inspired people to actually give it a go. And once you do, it's easy, and you actually start to enjoy it. So for me, it's about home cooking and consistently enjoying it together as a family.
Should we calorie count?
My biggest criticism, and the only thing I ever get slagged off about, is the fact that I don't promote calorie counting and tracking everything, because for the majority of the population, people just need to learn to cook and need to actually be inspired to get in the kitchen. When you combine that with like a daily calorie target or a weekly target, and you throw it into MyFitnessPal and you're tracking it, the fitness community loves that, right? And if some people love data and numbers, then you should do that. But I find that it overwhelms people. It becomes confusing. It becomes a little bit too stressful having to do this daily target. So for me, I think it all balances out when you combine it with exercise. Like, if you ate my recipes and did no exercise, you might lose body fat, you might gain body fat, you'll never know. But if you combine it with exercise and you eat healthy food, you are setting yourself up for success, because you're going to be burning more energy and allowing yourself to eat nice, big, generous portions of food, so you're not depriving yourself. And that over time will lead to a physical transformation.
And what about sugar? Because, sugar has become, the big demon that we're all supposed to stop, but it's so hard to stop.
It's so hard to stop because sugar isn't just in chocolate bars and, like ice cream and lollies and sweets. It's in everything. It's in our cereal. It's in our bread. It's in our yogurt. It's everywhere. So it's one of these things. You might think, I don't really have much sugar. I have 1 teaspoon of sugar in my tea a day. But then if you're having like fruit, low fat yogurts, you're having sugary cereals and energy bars, all these things add up. So it is the kind of secret ingredient that you often don't know is there. And yeah, carbohydrates are like anything; they contain calories, and the more you consume, you do start to store that eventually if you're not burning enough energy. So I don't think it's a demon thing you've got to ban from your life, but restricting it, as much as you can. And I replace kind of my sugary like chocolate fix, if you like, for a piece of fruit, which has some fiber and a bit more nutrients to it. But yeah, I would just say in moderation is fine. Just like butter and olive oil and cheese and fats are fine in moderation. But if you're eating a whole block of cheese every day, you're going to struggle to lose body fat.
Are your kids allowed sweets and chocolates?
They have sweets and chocolate. Yeah, I mean, we've got, obviously we just had the advent calendar, which they were loving. They're obsessed with every day. But yeah, I allow them treats. We have like, a lolly every now and again. We have an ice cream sometimes, but it's not every day. It's probably every few days they get a little treat and they kind of enjoy it. And it's more for their teeth. I think I'm not worried about them like gaining weight and being overweight children. I think it's more about their teeth. It really is bad for young people's teeth to be having a lot of sugar. So that's my main concern, I think.
Now, this year hopefully is going to be very different to last year in terms of our mindset, in that we are very much nationally and globally on the road to recovery and on the road to trying to, move on from coronavirus, develop immunity, have the vaccine, stop it being the great blight of our lives. But I guess one of the byproducts of this pandemic has been people have been thinking about their personal fitness. Obesity became such an important thing, an important factor on whether coronavirus was going to affect you. So this is a big opportunity as well, isn't it?
I think it's been a tough year, but it's also been an awakening, isn't it, in many respects, to how much we speak to our friends and family, how connected we are with our community, how much we take care of each other and look after people. And I think that was a kind of nice, positive outcome from the year. And yeah, I think people realize that exercise and fitness doesn't come easy. You can't wake up and be strong and lean and healthy. And you can, if you look around years after being sedentary and not eating healthy, you could be at high risk of a disease and an illness that you don't want. And so it's about people thinking now, can I make small changes? Can I change my habits? The biggest challenge we face is technology. And I mean that in the sense that you've got apps, you've got social media, you've got devices, but the way food's getting delivered to us, it's made us lazier. It's made us lazier because we're using less energy. We're not even walking to the shops anymore. Everything's getting delivered. So it's a kind of, we're living in a world now which makes it harder I think it's harder than ever to be fit and healthy. And so you have to be very disciplined and really consistent. And like that can come through home cooking and regular home workouts, I think, is the key to really sustaining a healthy body and mind into the future.
There's a little bit of going back to basics, isn't there?
Yeah, it's going back to the old school, like, walk more, take your dog out, go ride to work, take the stairs. I know it's all these things might seem so insignificant, but if you do that every day, it adds up. And if you remove like the ready meals and the micro dinners and maybe just have one of them a week, but you cook 4 or 5 nights a week at home, that will make a difference too. And all these things add up to your, not just body weight, but your mental health and what's going on inside your body as well.
Because there's going to be a temptation for us all to say, can we just go back to normal? Can we just go back to being able to go out and go to the pub and, go to our restaurants and all the rest of it? But actually, we really should, I suppose, see this as an opportunity to change our lives for the better.
Definitely. I think socializing is an important part of human nature. I think one of the things I've missed the most is going out with my friends for a nice meal or taking my mum and dad for dinner and being connected. So we're always going to need that. We always need to socialize, and we should always do that. And whether that's having a barbecue at home or going for a nice curry once every couple of weeks, do that. But try your best to kind of get into the habit of cooking at home and prepping your meals, rather than being someone who just commutes to work, sits on the train, gets a ready meal, gets a takeaway lunch and a meal deal at the supermarket. And that is so easy to live that life. But when you live that life, you will be unhealthy, you will be unfit. So you have to work harder against all of these resistant friction factors that are stopping you from being active and moving, and set goals and set daily habits. And you're going to feel so much better, not just physically but mentally. Your life will be better. You're going to have more energy. You're going to when you walk into that office at work, you will work harder. You'll be more ambitious. You're going to succeed more. So it isn't just about body and the vehicle we walk around in. It's everything else gets affected through health and fitness.
And how does this year look like for you? What have you got planned?
So I've got big ambitions to really continue the legacy of P with Joe. Like, I had that moment, I got all those people exercising, but I'm not naive. I know that a lot of people would have gone back to their old ways, will have not been keeping it up and maintaining it. So I really want to get back out on the road as soon as I can. I want to visit more schools around the UK and hopefully do a UK, but also a global kind of tour where I visit different countries and see how they're getting on there with their fitness in schools. And ultimately, yeah, I'd like to launch the app in the US and all around Europe and kind of do a global push on that, because I do believe it's going to help a lot of people transform their lives. So yeah, I'm really proud of the app. I've also got some children's books coming out. So I'm working on some positive kind of uplifting storybooks around health and fitness for young people. So just another way of getting that message to children. So that's going to be an exciting challenge.
How do you stay so positive?
My positivity is directly linked to my lifestyle. It's like when I'm having a really bad week and I'm not exercising and I'm getting takeaways and I'm eating loads of chocolate and Ben and Jerry's, I am not Mr. Motivator. I'm not on stories. You won't see me because I can't be that person. When I'm exercising every day, when I'm doing my motivational stories and I'm sharing my recipes, it's because I'm living that lifestyle. So it's directly linked to the person that I am at the end of the day when I'm doing all this stuff. But I do have days when I'm not motivated, but I just love the challenge. I love the hustle of like creating something new, building community, like reaching more people. It isn't about more fame and more success. It's about more impact. It's about more, for me, like more people, more impact brings me more energy and more happiness. And so I'm very much driven by that. Like the fact that I could potentially do a video today, which could be seen by 100,000 people, or it could be seen by 1 million people if it's shown to the right, if it's shown on the right platform at the right time. And that's exciting for me.
Well, we've been talking about sort of driving change and the hard work of change throughout this. If we could make it a little bit easier, if you could just change the world, what would you do?
That's a lovely question. And I think if I could wave a magic wand and do one thing for the world, for the population of the world, it would be to help them love exercise and to really feel the benefits of it and to kind of enjoy it. Because if they had 1% of my motivation and my discipline, they would be living a healthier, happier life in so many ways, not just on a body image and a kind of fat loss perspective, but just on an elevation of mood and energy. And so, yeah, it would be to give everyone the desire to exercise and the discipline to make it a regular thing, because when they do that, they will live a happier life for the rest of their life.
Joe Wicks, thank you so much for sharing your ways to change the world. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope your 2021 is brilliant and healthy and happy.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a lovely conversation. I really hope that people take something from it and feel motivated, and I hope that everyone has a really positive and inspired 2021.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that and got a few ideas about how to make your year a success. If you did, then please do give us a rating and a review so other people can find this podcast. Our producer is Rachel Evans. Until next time, bye-bye.